Hello, my name is Leo. Today we're going to talk about hash function. Hash function, or simply hash, is a function which can be used for mapping data of arbitrary size to data of fixed size. Here are some things which are related to hash function, such as checksums, fingerprints, ciphers, error correcting codes, check digits, and so on. Here are the basic properties of hash function. First, it is deterministic, meaning that it always gives the same output hash for the same given input key, so it is really a function which defines some algorithm where it is computed within. It is uniform, meaning that it always generates the hash outputs with the approximately same probability. Therefore, values in range of hash function are uniformly distributed and not in any case random. Hash function has defined range, which is the fixed bit array, so long length of bit array. For example, in SHA-1 cryptographic hash function, there is used bit array of 160 bits long. However, the range of hash function can vary, so there are dynamic hash functions with their dynamic hash tables which change their range since they last longer than the run of program itself, so in some cases hash tables have to be changed in the length. Data normalization. The common example of data normalization is considering uppercase and lowercase letters. For example, little a is considered the same as big A, although they are different characters, but it is achieved by hash function. This property of continuity gives us opportunity that two data records are defined as similar, meaning that there is an array of same characters in a row, so the same substring in two or more strings. Therefore, it isn't used as, for instance, in cryptography, where we could say the word similar does not exist, because although the two hashes are different, so differ in only one character, these two are completely different. And finally, hash function is non-invertible, meaning that it only performs in one way, so it is called one-way function. Choose of hash function, which is inside some hash algorithm, depends on nature of input data and probability distribution for the application. The simplest hash function is trivial hash function, which is used when data are small enough not to be hashed at all, so they are considered as already hashed. Therefore, we can say that trivial hash is perfect hash algorithm will define now. In this way, there will be no colliding of input data. Perfect hash is the injective function, meaning that it does never map different domain elements to the same codomain element. And in the words of hash function, there is not more than one, and there is exactly one key, so exactly one input to the same hash output. Thus, hash collision is impossible. And hash collision is collision of two or more keys, so inputs of hash function having the same output hash. Such function is also perfect for simple locating data in hash table. The best and the perfect hash function is minimal perfect hash function, which is presented here, one which has range of n consecutive integers and one whose hash table does not have any vacant slot. Rolling hash is hash used for searching substrings in strings we're going to talk about later. Universal hash algorithm is the one which randomly picks hash function and is used so there will be as little hash collisions as possible. However, it isn't so efficient as perfect hash algorithm, especially the minimal perfect hash, which is the best one for this purpose. Hash using checksum function. With this checksum function is function which is used for detecting error in data storage or transmission. And for this purpose also can be used hash function. And it is used for avalanche test, which is test made for this purpose because even if input data are slightly changed, output data will be significantly changed. And this is especially used in cryptography, this avalanche test, so even there are some small changes in either key or plain text which are used for encryption, there will appear big changes in encrypted text, also called ciphertext. Last but not least, and probably one of the most important, is cryptographic hash, which is used for the similar purposes as checksum notation or fingerprints, and also in the cryptography most. And more about cryptographic hash functions in one of the next videos about cryptography. Here are common uses of hash function. Hash table or map is a data structure used to implement an associative array, which is a structure which can map keys to values. Hash tables are used for quick locating, finding data records. It commonly maps the search key to an index, and there are more possible keys often than hash table indices, meaning the domain of hash function is often greater than its range. And due to this fact, there can appear collisions between two or more inputs having the same hash as their output. Each slot of hash table is called bucket, and bucket has often more recorded values associated with it, called bucket indices. Hash is used for the very similar purpose in caches for large data sets stored in slow media, as in the hash search tables, but caches are more simple because this problem with two or more inputs having collided their hash outputs, is solved just by discarding or writing back one of two colliding items. We can use hash functions in order to find duplicate records stored in large unsorted files for mapping each record to an index into a table and collecting a list of numbers of all records with the same hash value in each bucket. And in this way, all the same duplicate records end up in the same bucket. Buckets are then scanned, and ones containing two or more records are fetched and records within them are compared. Hash can be also used for finding records with similar substrings and also in the same way as a geometric hash. There has to be defined a small number such as 1 or 2 in order that hashes that differ by at most this number end up in the same bucket. This hashing principle is related to locality sensitive hashing and is very different from other types of hashing because it maximizes rather than minimizes collision of input data, so of keys. And it is used especially in acoustic fingerprint algorithms, which are algorithms used for finding audio files of similar sound in big collections of these audio files. And in the same way, similar substrings are found in the big collections of strings, such as those in document repositories or genomic databases, so in genetics, biology. Hashing is also in the same way applied in computer graphics, for example for finding similar images in image databases or some similar geometric shapes in 2- or 3-dimensional geometry. And finally, hash is used in cryptography for protecting data. And cryptography is a branch of mathematics and computer science whose goal is to secure data where it is used in the process of data encryption. So to convert from plain text to cipher using cryptographic hash functions such as one of today's most used MD5 and more used SHA, especially SHA-1. For cryptographic hash functions is very important non-invertible property, which we mentioned as very important property that hash function is a one-way function. Every password, when we type it in, for example, in login page of some web page or in our email, it gets its hash. Let's look at this simple example of some password and its hash. And in this case, assume that password can be only consisted of some digits, so not letters at all. And hash is in this case very simple one. It is sum of digits of its password, which is here 24. It is very bad hash, although it is simple, because it is very fast and too fast, so it can be very, very quickly cracked. The similar is when password is too simple, It can be also very simply cracked, such as, for example, passwords 12345 or simply password, which are today's very popular but very bad passwords. We can see now why. There are more ways how to crack passwords. One way is simply by brute force attack. And it is an attack which consists of only of guessing and depends on password length and complexity. However, there is more efficient and easier way how to crack the password, actually password hash, which are rainbow tables. Rainbow table is pre-computed table used for reversing cryptographic hash functions with aim of cracking password hashes. So they are tables with passwords and password hashes which are next to them. And they are product of long-term computer work. So computers have been working and still work on finding password hashes for the bigger and bigger combination and length of passwords. Therefore, hackers can use them, for example, so as to crack some user's password and use it for malicious purpose. This is very big danger. But to prevent this, there was invented harder way of cracking password hashes, which is key strengthening. And by key strengthening process, we got something which is called salted hash. This principle means combining hashes and generated, in mostly cases it is pseudo-random in computers, pseudo-random numbers. So we combine hash and pseudo-random number in order to get more complex and much harder password hash to crack. So it is almost impossible to crack in some reasonable time. Now you've learned what hash function is, about its characteristics, and about its basic and most important applications and uses. I also hope you've learned the importance of having longer and more complex passwords than 12345. Thanks for watching and stay with us.